Is generally in this region, the company finds it difficult to scale after a certain point. Let's say 10 to 20 crores.
In which region?
In the region with Punjab region.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for those entrepreneurs?
Yes.
What they must be they are lacking, or what do you think?
No, it just depends on the type of company they're running. If they're into traditional, next generation type kind of companies, which is manufacturing or agri-tech or things like that, I think it's not a classic VC-oriented model. But what I would do if I was them is build it up to 25 crores, 30 crores, whatever they can, and actually get private equity in. Because they know how to kind of scale it up from an operation standpoint. And the expectations are also not as high as a VC. Because a VC typically wants 5x, 10x return. And these kind of sectors may not do that. But they can actually create some fantastic companies, I know. In fact, if I look at the assets in India, forget about all this startup buzz and all, because even though I don't have an MBA, I have a PhD in computer science, right? And I've still done 3 companies, and all of them have been in the software area. But I look at the rest of the country in various domains like manufacturing, electronics, agri-tech. There are tons of companies, including dairy products, right? Which are like 100 crores, 200 crores, 300 crores. And they can all actually scale up and do well. And I think an entrepreneur is successful no matter what. Just because you raise VC money from a name brand VC doesn't make you successful.
You did.
So we're in the range where Ajay mentioned. And the question relates to creating technology and intellectual property. And specifically I'm not talking about dairy or agri processing, I'm talking about cloud, artificial intelligence, machine learning, technologies like this, blockchain. Now, a lot of these times you get these platforms where you can build your technology on platforms. So the option is one, invest in basic technology and then create value, or invest on technologies that are offered on these platforms and then build technologies. There are flip sides to both. I mean, there are 2 sides to both of them. Do you have any case studies, any preferences in terms of how the how the valuation game or the business game works in both of them?
So let's look at this, right? If it's a horizontal play, which is purely technology, then you have to basically start from scratch and really innovate something which is very, very differentiated. Typically from India, I mean, at least based on my experiences, it's very difficult to start a pure tech company and have it actually be successful. You have to actually relocate to the geo where people will actually buy stuff. So mainly in the US or Europe, right? From an IP perspective, if you're a pure horizontal play, then that will be valuable. I mean, if you're kind of doing something very, very core and fundamental. It could be in genomics, it could be wherever. As long as you come up with something which is differentiated, patented, and has impact, right? In India, unfortunately, that'll always be a struggle, because whatever companies that we have looked at and even invested in, it's taking much longer for them to actually see the light of the day. If you're doing a solution which is tech-enabled, then my advice is don't worry about IP. Basically figure out what are the open source components that are available, pick it up, modify it, and use it. And all the stuff that you talked about, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, etc., have been around for like 30 years. I did my PhD in AI in 1988. Nothing much has changed, including machine learning, because it's all statistical and qualitative. So if you look at it, I don't think you need to do anything very differentiated. So if you look at like Calm.io, how many of you have heard of Calm.io? They got acquired by Nutanix. They were not doing anything super from an AI machine learning perspective, but they came up with a very nice optimal automated DevOps play. Similarly, Minjar, I think, made the news very recently in the cloud space. Nutanix picked it up. So the whole idea is to solve a problem, solve it well, and keep it simple. And in this case, you don't need any fundamental AI or machine learning. But if you're doing something from an algorithm perspective, then you need that differentiation. And that will affect valuation. Whereas in this case, the cases which I talked about, which is tech-enabled, it may not affect valuation that much.
So I have a follow-up question here. In a case where you're solving a problem, and it's not. I mean, it's different, but it's not like basic technology. It's something that's been around for a while, but you're still solving a problem by solving it in a different way. The question that tends to come around is then again how it's pure play services put as a product. So how does the investor, I mean, then you're playing on customers, then you're playing on essentially that small bit of intellectual property that you've developed over a proprietary platform that probably belongs to a third party. So I can have this discussion offline if it's getting too technical, but this is a small question that might be relevant for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's a relevant question, but as I told you, when I look at any play as an investor, I'm looking for smarts. Okay, smarts means I'm not looking for real high IQ, but I'm looking for smarts where like the person is pragmatic. So unless there's a compelling advantage for you to retain that IP, you don't need to, at least from an investor perspective. Because you are all about speed and scale initially, and that should be your focus. Unless you're doing something very fundamental like research or like opening up a toolkit, or you're writing the next kind of blockchain, kind of open source which you're providing to people. Very, very difficult plays. Those are not easy to actually kind of push out from India. Yeah, actually, just the other day there was a company out of New York which was coming and selling to Indian banks. So it's possible, as long as they've done the implementation well, it's been ratified by bodies, by financial institutions, yes, it's definitely possible. But the key thing is, please distinguish between blockchain and crypto. Blockchain is basically a data structure at the end of the day, a distributed data structure. Huh?
I'm talking about apps, services that run on it.
Yeah, so all of them, if you're providing a library or toolkit, these guys are coming and selling it to banks here now. Saying if you want to kind of implement your ledger, we have a process, please, we'll do a kind of a... So a good company is called, in this space, is Factom, FACTOM. So they were basically ratified by the World Bank. And now because they've been ratified by the World Bank, they're being pushed to all banks across all countries.
What is your take on the new ecosystem created by blockchain on raising capital?
Well, that's something which is dicey in my mind. Okay.
Is it because of the Indian government stand with IC, or is it just because of the other?
I think the regulations are still evolving, right? I mean, so some of the people might make a lot of money on these ICOs, and people have. I mean, I'm not saying that, but it has to become very, very uniform and clean. Today, it's not there. So even if one of our companies is trying to do an ICO, right? But I've been trying to caution them, saying that, okay, fine, you do an ICO, you raise capital, but will you be allowed to use capital, deploy that capital back to your operations in India? No clear answer. So would you then relocate your company?
There are great legal lawyers that can.
Okay, well, look for, I mean, we are working with a few.
But you are also working on the same.
No, my basic thing is like the two professions which I kind of try to stake here are lawyers and accountants. Right?
Coming back to the same question of scaling of startups. We as a startup, we are a 3-year-old startup. We have identified one revenue stream which is giving us a sustainability. So month-on-month basis, we are able to meet our revenue, our expenses. But at the same time, we have always in need of working capital to meet our existing products. Now, as a startup, we also have some diversification plan or growth plan. So sustainability is also asking for funds on a regular basis, and growth is also asking for funds on a regular basis. And not only funds, but also time and energy of the founder. How to prioritize and what to prioritize? We are slightly
before I answer, I need to understand what your company does.
It is primarily into credit business, and we are into skill development, and we are now trying to diversify into swapping those whom we are skilling
So you will also become a services. Okay, very good. So actually we have a company which we have invested, you might have heard of it. I think it's the third largest. It's called Orion. Okay, I don't know if you've heard of that. And so they've actually kind of reached 200 crores in revenue. And everyone is actually thinking the same thing. So what I would advise is, in this particular instance, don't actually focus on one or two areas like hospitality or tourism or whatever. I mean, I don't know, but like focus only on that, because if you do 7 things, you won't be able to do it, right? That's one. The second thing is, if you need operating capital and you have decent invoices, I mean, which can be actually factored, try to raise venture debt. You'll have to service it for a short amount of time. That may not be bad. Can I ask you a personal question? What is your revenue right now?
Around 7 CR.
7 CR. So at this stage, if you can just raise even 1 to 2 CR in venture debt, which you'll get between 12 and 15 points, and then take a small equity, I think it's a good thing to do. Because today, this won't appeal to a VC, okay? But tomorrow it could, if you're like 40, 50 crores. There's another company which has done this successfully, a company called Talent Sprint out of Hyderabad, but they're doing more techie skill set development. So that's it. I think whatever you diversify, keep it small, okay? And then get venture debt for your core business, because don't forget the core business. If you forget the core business, you're done.
Dr. Srikanth, one last question from my side. Many of the startups in this region are in IT outsourcing, services business. What would be your advice in terms of differentiation for them to come into the ECI, which means using the cost arbitrage?
So actually, so these days we don't look at services businesses at all. So it won't get into the VCI. So what I try to tell people who are into services primarily is get to a particular size, get some marquee customers, and actually try to raise funds from private as opposed to VCs, because it's more attuned. I think that was the same question you answered before.
Great. I think I'm getting signals to stop. Thank you very much, Dr. Srikanth.
Thank you all for having me.
A big round of applause for Dr. Srikanth.
Thanks to both of you. What a lovely session. Thank you. And we have a token of thanks again. So thanks a lot. I guess it's unfair. Even cheers should get something, right? You do a lot of efforts in asking wonderful questions. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And so yeah, thanks to again our sponsors. Okay, so we have something for Ajay sir to hear. Vikas Kapuria ji has said it. So Ajay sir, thanks for you, and Vikas Kapuria ji. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I would like to thank sponsors. We've got Platinum sponsor Startup Punjab, Partner Country UK, as well as Gold sponsors. So, we talk about sponsorships, we talk a lot about marketing. Basically, all the brands want your attention. We are living in such an age where they can throw sofas at. So, we are living in such an age where all the brands are vying for your attention. Every product, every company, every business out there wants you, your attention, wants your money, wants your time, and they want you to try out their product, use their product. So marketing in this age has changed a lot because of this. Since we are already so much inundated with ads, you automatically shun out, a lot of ads that are coming onto us. And in digital age, a lot of companies are taking advantage of marketing like anything. A lot of companies grow by word of mouth. A lot of companies engage in viral marketing. A lot of companies use very innovative ways of marketing. Look at an example of, let us say, PayPal, which used to provide referral bonuses to people for referring their friends. Or companies like $1 Billion Shave Club. And now to discuss more about that at the time they are setting, so the context is already set. And our next panel is about from eyeballs to footfalls. How can you convert your customers to just look at your products? From eyeballs to footfall, marketing in today's age. And I hope this will be pretty interesting. And let me invite onto the stage the chair of this session, Professor Siddharth Singh from ISB. So, Siddharth Shekhar Singh, he's a professor of marketing at Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, as well as Mohali. Can we have a big round of applause for our next chair of the session, Footfalls, Footfalls. Over to you.
Thank you. I know that the kind of audience we have, the second you hear the word professor, half of you probably switch off. So let me share a few things quickly, how we'll conduct the session. So we have our panelists, Mohit, Deepak and Will. We sat down earlier and we decided that the best way to move this forward is they will, each one of them will give 1 minute introduction of what they have done.